through Tuesday, second half. First half's over on Lisa's channel. If you want to go check that out, if you're watching this later on, her link is it's in the description. And it's just on my main landing page. Good to see everyone here. Hey, howdy.
Howdy.
Howdy. It's what we say in the South.
In the South?
Yeah.
No. Oh.
Here in the South.
I had a friend think I live in Texas just because of my accent. I was like, well, I did it one time, but for a long time.
There was something about Oklahoma I wanted to ask you about, and I forget. But something I do want to ask you about is this insane thing, this heart-wrenching thing. And now I've forgotten what it's called.
Good.
Parental reintegration, I believe it's called. Now you've fostered parent, you've done that. You would know about this. It is so bad. It's so kids have an abusive parent, right? Mom's abusive or dad's abusive, and they're divorced or separated, or whatever. Usually it's divorced, and they are living with their parent, and they're like, I love my mom, I love my dad, but our other parent used to beat me or try to have sex with me or whatever. And it's over with. And then there's this school of psychology that all children lie, all children are bad. And literally the dude from the 70s or 80s that said all children lie, all children are terrible. And it's that they make up all this stuff. They're not real. They should never. He even said, because this reporter asked him in the interviews, like, if what should someone do if their child comes to them and says, hey, my other parent is doing terrible things to me. He said they should beat the child right away and say, I don't believe you, and if you say it again, I'll beat you even worse. That was the answer the dude gave. But judges, so it was, I forget the time period, but it came to, it was late 70s, I think it was late 70s, where, because it was used to always be, no matter what, mother full custody, mother full custody, mother full custody. And in the 70s, they started to change, where judges were like, well, we should send the children to the parent that they'll be best off with, that'll be able to take care of them, that wants to take care of them, or that's the best parent. And like, dude, when I got divorced, everyone in the courtroom was looking at me. They took my ex aside and asked her if I was threatening her in any way or doing anything, making her do anything against her will, or, that she was safe and she could tell them and that they would handle it. I'm like, I was still like, why the fuck would you do that? I think I said hell in court. And the clerk was like, well, you just look so angry. I was like, yeah, I'm getting divorced, man. I'm in court to be divorced. What do you think? I'm happy about this? And they're like, well, everything's here. I mean, you're getting full custody of the kids and, child support. And I was like, she said, this is just very odd. Can you imagine that, dude? That's like the worst discrimination ever. That happened to me when I was into court. But anyway, so so in the late 70s, judges had to start going to experts, and this dude was this expert, supposedly in child psychology, and he started talking about that these are all lies. That whatever the kid tells you is lies. If there's no proof, you don't believe kids. So they started to force children back with their abusive parents. And there was this kid that literally they'd come in the night, they kidnap them, they rip them. It's legal, and they had this one who was on when cell phones came out, now or a few years ago, and this girl's friend was there, and like her and her brother are just huddled in the corner. They're like, no, we don't want to go with you. We don't. And I thought it was I thought it was a foreign country, because the guy was talking with a Russian accent, and this other woman had an accent, but it's just California. But they like ripped her, and you're like, my pants are falling down there, and they were like forced her into this, SUV, and they took her and her brother away, and they forced them to live with their mom. But her friend was there. She was on social media. She's like, I don't believe they're taking my
So,
friend.
like, was it court ordered? I don't understand.
The court ordered that they had to go back. So that's the thing. Judges are told,
Yeah.
no abuse, and she needs to be. They need. It's hurting them to be with one parent, and they have to be. So they go to this. There's a whole industry now. This whole huge industry where they go to a hotel for like 3 days or 4 days with this. There's a group of psychiatrists that have these programs, and they make them watch YouTube videos for 3 days, and they charge the state like $80,000.
Oh my God.
And then they send them off to live with their abusive parent. And at first they try to brainwash them and tell them, you made it up in your head. I know you might even think that it's true now, but it's all fake in your head. It's all imagined. They literally try to tell them that they're nuts. But this one girl, she was recorded on her phone, posted it, and she kept talking about it on her social media. My friend's gone. They won't let her talk to anyone. They won't let me talk to her. They won't let her talk to her dad. So then these kids start talking on social media. They like have they sneak a phone and they're able to go on, and everyone's like following this. And then there's this girl's friend just started a huge protest with all her friends, like from school. They went to the Capitol, and then these kids, they ran away. They just ran away from their mom, and they were on social media like, we're not telling you where we are, but we're not with our mom anymore. She was still being an alcoholic, terrible person. And then I think the judge said that they could stay with their dad or whatever. So then they really got into the spotlight, and they passed there's a law now where in California now, like they're not legal anymore. But I think it's like 5 or 6 states or more now that have made it illegal. But the fact that it existed for 30 years, it's insane. I want to know if you knew anything about that or ever heard of it.
No, I know that, just from being involved and seeing families and, getting divorced and then having trouble afterwards with payment stuff, collecting payment. And so being in a courtroom a lot, it's heartbreaking, and you never want a court deciding what decisions for your children. Like, if you might hate each other, you might be like, we are getting divorced and I think he's the most terrible person in the world. But if you can decide what's best for your children together, then do that for your children, because that third party person doesn't know either one of you. They mostly don't trust either one of you, and they're going to get other third party people involved. And then you have other, strangers making decisions for your family, and it's confusing to your children.
Also, there's a degree of prejudice that is,
Sure.
Everyone has it. Everyone has it. And
Sure.
you have to overcome that. If it's like, oh, I hate people with red hair, someone with red, everyone with red hair was mean to me. Oh, my husband has red hair. It's just, and they don't even probably know that you do it. You know what I mean?
It's just human nature. Yeah.
It's just
human nature.
You bring in people that don't love you. They don't love your kids. They don't have
your same values. I mean, you're bringing a third party in to make decisions about your family, and it is dangerous.
It's the worst thing to.
It's the worst thing to do. Yeah. No, I always, in fact, I've had people call me in even crisis situations, and they're so angry at the other person that they start telling me things that the other person, well, they this and they that. I'm going to say, that they endangered them. And what I said, do you really believe your child was in danger? Do you believe, because then you knew your child in danger and you didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So now you're in trouble. And now you've just put the judge or whoever, the authority, in a position that they should consider removing that child from you as well. And so that's where you should always be it's not about going after that other person isn't worth losing your child over. Like, you need to really be thoughtful about and truthful about the situation. Never use your child to hurt that other person.
Yeah. And I remember when I first really, like, because I didn't really know much about this, kind of stuff. And I was watching Oprah. This is back way in the day.
Before you knew what she did to children.
Yeah. And it was like 90, 80 something. And it was a show where, it was about CPS. And she said that there's this database in the United States that once someone calls CPS on you, you're entered into the database and you don't get out. Even if they're like, oh, this was a stupid call, there's nothing to do with it, you're still in their database as having been a national database, as having been investigated for, child abuse or whatever. So if you are in, Maine and your neighbor calls because they're mad that your dog crapped in their yard, they come out and be like, oh, that was ridiculous. We're not allowed to tell you who called or whatever, but okay, and it's probably my neighbor because my dog shits in their yard. And then, once they hear that, oh, it was your neighbor, that is ridiculous. You're still entered in the database. So if you move to Florida and someone calls, CPS, it automatically comes up that you're like a repeat, and there's no information on it. It's just that you were investigated.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like what they just did to Santos. He had an investigation, but no conviction, and then he wasn't allowed to have a jury or a trial. He wasn't allowed to face his accusers or have a trial of a jury of his peers. There was an investigation and a report, and then he was voted out and lost his job.
Getting back to what we were talking about, how everyone's prejudiced, we've all watched cop shows and movies where the phrase, yeah, he's got a rap sheet as long as your arm, but no convictions. I think that means he's innocent, dude. But you know what it means. It means he got away with a bunch of stuff. And that's what it looks like. So my mom called CPS on me because we're renting their house. My mom was getting her doctorate. And then my parents came back. And they were supposed to visit. And then my mom had a job with the government as the pastor or the reverend of Mount Rushmore, which is very odd. But at like, national parks, they have like chapels and stuff. And that's what her job. And it's a big drama whether or not my stepdad didn't want her to take the job. He wanted to come home, but he didn't send in like her paperwork. So they're literally about to leave. And the government said, oh, we went with someone else. You didn't send that form back in that we sent you. And she's like, what are you talking about? I had this. It was all set. It was, I had the contract for 3 years to, work there. He's like, yeah, but you didn't send this thing back like initial. And so she was pissed. But then she was like, oh, I guess we're home. And I'm like, oh, it's where we live. So they moved in and we were like living together. My mom was ecstatic because she got to be around the grandkids.
Yeah.
Which I understand. But, then she moved into, like the kids drew in the wall. This is a perfect example. The kids drew all over her wall. And I was like, you're in trouble now. I'm going to spank your butt and you're not allowed to have any crayons or anything for, a week. Mm-hmm. And she was like, no, they're just being artistic and expressing themselves. I love it. I'm going to frame the wall. I'm like, Mom, we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, Mom, I'm parenting them. I'm making parenting choices.
Dude, Ted took spray paint on the white brick house. It's spray painted on what he spray painted, fine. I love my Nana.
Oh my God.
They fucking spray painted on the side of the house. And then she was mad. But then she was like, oh, you're right, I love you. I was like, yeah, why don't you fucking frame that? So, but we moved out. My ex couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. And we moved into like this tiny apartment. It was horrible. My ex never lived in an apartment. But it was like just till we, get a house. It's like, it was super cheap just to get out. My mom was mad and she called CPS. And 10 owls were crawling, and they would get to the dog food, and they would put it in their mouth, and it would be like, "No, you can't eat dog food." But they were, they were babies, or like,
Yeah.
like 10 months old or something.
I'm curious.
So my mother called CPS and told them that I don't feed the kids enough because she did stuff food down their throat, and that they have to eat dog food. So, and this was a long
She was
time.
angry because you moved out.
She would like, she's like, "You need to come over every day with the kids." I'm like, "No, I have to work."
So now you're on a list.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So she tells them all this, like, that I don't have a phone. They don't have food. So they come to the house, and that, like, I beat them because I would punish them. So they come over and I'm like, all those things says that you beat them. Oh, I'm like, what? And then they said that they have to eat dog food, and I was like, oh, it's my mom. Okay. And this is like 94, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has cell phones. Like fax machines are brand. I mean, there's not even like really personal computers yet.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, says you don't have a phone. I was like, I have a regular phone and I have a cell phone. Right? And I pull out my cell phone, which is like insane that I have a cell phone. She was like, oh wow, you have one of those? Wow. It's like
it's this big.
They still had beepers, right? No, it was like cutting edge shit. It was only like this big.
Okay.
So there was no bag or anything. It was,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a fax, and it's a laser fax.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, what? I was like, yeah. And let's show them. And then she's like, well, what about they don't have food? And I was like, look at this. Now we're trying to lose weight, right? So we're eating this new thing called ground turkey instead of beef. And I open it, and they're like the little 1 pound chubs, which weren't around before. They were just, then. And there's like 20 of them in there, just showing her food. She's like, oh, there's lots of food. And then she's like, well, can I look at the kids, She like looks in their diapers and looks at their butts, make sure there's no bruising.
Oh.
So she was like, this is obvious. It was okay. Yeah,
they're big boys. I'm sure they weren't like wasting away or anything.
Yeah, they were all, and then like it's like everything she said, it was like ridiculous that I would shove in her face. I was so pissed. And then she said, well, everything was fine, but I'm a little worried about the diet. If there's, why do you have so much cookie dough? I was like, what? She thought all of the turkey was cookie dough. It's like we have nothing in our freezer but tons of cookie dough. So I was like, no, that's around turkey. It's just as like all the protein and everything, but there's less fat. And she was like, oh, okay. And she was embarrassed because it was like so. I mean, I was like, would just shove it like, oh, blah, blah, blah.
I have a family member that had CPS called on them, and they were kind and compliant, but because they knew the person was just there doing their job, but then that person felt so embarrassed because they were like, okay, like clearly this is a really nice family who loves their children, and there's no reason for us to be there. And
you're lucky if you get this. So that's another thing. I had a friend of mine. She's a single mom, and somebody got pissed and called on her, right? And they came over, and she was, and I used to be like a dick, because I knew, they were, you don't know their intention. So this woman came over, and she said she did a bunch of drugs, right? No, I don't do drugs. But she had like a dream catcher feather thing, and the woman said, "Oh, that's drug paraphernalia for marijuana. We're gonna take your kid." And
how do you know?
They took her kid. She did like drug tests with no, pass like right away, and then like a surprise one. Took her like a month to get her kid back.
Oh my God!
And it was just because she was rude to the woman, and that lady just was like, "Okay, you want to fight?" And that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That someone has a little bit of government power, and then when you call them on it, they'll use everything they have just to be vindictive. And that's someone who doesn't really care about kids. But then I was talking to this woman And I'm like, so I'm going to be on this database. And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, there's international database systems class that I know that you have that. I didn't want to say, I watch Oprah. But so she was like, yeah, you are going to be on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I was like, see, that's ridiculous, man.
Well, and that's where, like, so when we talk about government being weaponized, I mean, I understand the reason for confidentiality, for calling in, and maybe there's a solution there with blockchain of having like
Well, I think there should be.
accountability.
I think if something like what happened to me, I
Yeah.
think that person should be in trouble. If I go to it's anything else, if I go to the police and I falsify a statement on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
that I'll get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You're in trouble. So I think that in those cases where it's blatantly a lie,
You could do that with like when we have those conversations on World Blockchain Roundtable with the guys when they talk about like with weighted voting or whatever, when you have what is it called? Equity or reputation. So like if you had a key that this is your key that you can call fire. And so if you call fire and then it's not a fire, then you're going to lose your equity on your fire key. So like you can't use it again. So then you lose that privilege or whatever. So like you could have that key of so that there was a consequence of people calling in false CPS reports, things like that. And we could use that with our politicians as well, have that weighted equity or reputation key. And I guess this is kind of like what the umbrella promising is saying. Like if they don't vote the way that they're supposed to, then they lose their key.
but we already have these laws in place. But the only
But
thing
nobody
not
holds them accountable.
but there's the only thing that where it's not applied is this, and I think, and it's hard to do. It really is hard to say because you want kids definitely protected. You want everything to be investigated. So there's not, but there's so many. I remember there was this. It was a CPS like billboard on the way to Temple. I used to see it when I would go there, and it'd be like in Texas, like 15 kids are killed a year by domestic abuse or whatever, and it's like a terrible thing to see that. So uh, this is Robert was in so much fucking trouble. So I used to live in this little town, and it's where the kids first grew up, and everybody knows everyone. Everything's super close. It's like community thing. And the principal calls me, and he's like, "Sean, I'm so sorry for this. Uh, the boys came to school. Nick has a black eye." I was like, "Yeah, I know." And I was like, Robert punched him in the eye, and he said, "Well, the teacher now she's a nice girl, but she's brand new. It's her first year teaching, and she just doesn't understand. And it's I'm so sorry." I was like, "What is it?" He's like, "Well," she said, "you know, what happened to your brother's eye, Rob?" And Nick said, "Oh, Robert punched me." And so she goes to Robert, says, "Robert, you punched your brother and I gave him a black eye?" He goes, No, this is my dad. My dad punched him in the eye. He was stealing, money from the bank or so. He make
Make up something crazy. Yeah.
So by law, legally, if you're a teacher and you hear something, you have to call.
Yeah.
So
Well, and actually, we're all mandated reporters. People think it's just teachers, but actually anyone. If you know a child is in danger, you are mandated. You're a mandated reporter. You're required. If something happens to that child, and they find out that you knew that the child was in danger or was harmed, and you didn't report it, you can be held.
I didn't know that. But if you're a teacher, you lose your teaching certificate. Like if you don't.
Well, you might go to jail.
But anyway, so she called, and the principal was like, "I know this is so inappropriate." So I was like, "Don't worry about it, man. It's fine." So CBS comes out. They knock on the door, and I'm immediately like, I'm super hostile. So I come out on the porch, sit on the steps, and then she's like, "Well, can we go inside?" I was like, "No." She's like, "Why not?" I said, "I don't want you to.
You don't have a warrant."
Yeah, so I don't want you. I said, "I didn't want to." And I said, I told her what happened. I was like, "You go talk to the principal." Well, I already talked to the principal. I already talked to Nicholas and Robert, and I talked to Ted Nallis. I'm like, what? Why did you go to my Ted Nallis' school? And I was like, dude, Ted Nallis' school doesn't know. They're in a different school. And you're going in there, and all they know is CPS wants to talk to my other kids. So this is to make you look bad in the community. Because like I said, small town.
Yeah.
So I told her, I was like, the principal called me, told me everything. She's like, yeah, I talked to the principal. It's like, then why are you even here?
Mm-hmm.
She goes, well, I need to know from you. I'm like, well, do you hit the kids? And I said, I spanked them on the butt. Is it illegal? Is that illegal here? And I was like, really, putting her on a defensive. She's like, no, that's not illegal. So okay. So why are you still here? And then, she was like asking, just constantly trying to like goat me. And I was like, nope. I didn't cuss at her, but I was just like, okay. You don't have permission to talk to anyone or do anything. I don't like you. I don't like the things that I've heard about your agent.
You don't even have to talk to them without a
Yeah,
lawyer or a
but then
subpoena.
that goes against you, So I was like,
Mhm.
I answered all of her questions, and then that was the end of it. She left, obviously, but man, and then I found out when my friend because my friend like went up to like the state level and made a complaint against this CPS person, um, that they're lazy and they have to, as soon as they close a case, they have a new case they have to work. So if they have a BS case, they'll leave it open for 3 months because they have 3 months before they have to do something. So they will make you do some stuff or for 3 months because then if they don't have anything to do, they're free to do nothing. So if they have like 3 cases at a time and they leave them open for 3 months and they're all BS, that means like for 2 months and 2.5 months, they have nothing to do. They're free and they get paid.
Wow.
And then they close it. And that's what this woman was trying to do. And the people in Austin, they like came down on her, and she got in like trouble for what she.
Good. I was gonna say, because I've met some really, I mean, I know there's good and bad everywhere. I've met
Yeah.
some really amazing caseworkers, all the time I was doing foster care work that really, I mean, that have changed kids' lives,
It's
that
like cops. There's
really
good, there's
support,
good bad cops.
yeah, that support foster parents. I mean, there's some really amazing people that are in it for the right reasons. But there are some real,
Yeah, it's like, but it's like we're talking about just prejudice, and then if you challenge someone's authority and they're just high on that authority, they're gonna fight you, and that's not something. It's like you can watch a video, and this guy is like, fuck you, cop, or whatever, and the cop beats the shit out of him, and people are like, well, I shouldn't have said fuck you, cop. I was like, yeah, but it's not illegal. You have to have thick skin if you're in the job. You have to be like,
well, and usually the more insecure someone is, the more easily triggered they are.
yeah, you say, yeah, you're a piece of shit, and you shouldn't have pulled me over. But okay, sir, well, here's your ticket.
Mhm.
Here's be there for your court date. Have a
Right.
nice day. Like, yeah, you go fuck yourself. That's how it should go, man. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, it's not nice, but you have to uphold. That's your job to uphold the law. If someone's breaking the law, fine,
Not your job to be their friend. Yeah.
you arrest them. But if they're just hurting your feelings, you don't use your power. Don't try to get somebody. Don't it's weird. But speaking of weird stuff, the other thing I wanted to go over.
Weird.
It is so bad, dude. This is so bad. Let's talk about, speaking of kids, let's talk about ritual sacrifice of Satanism.
Oh, God.
Satanist. And one of the big things is to have a child sacrifice. And I never thought about this until this came out. Did you hear about the Cosmo doing this story
Mm-mm.
about having a satanic abortion and how it shows, like, everything it's coming out what they are and why there's so many is because they are actually child sacrifices to the devil.
Moloch. Mhm.
Let me see here.
And that's why they put them mostly in the Planned Parenthood's mostly in Black communities. If you look at a map of Planned Parenthoods, they're predominantly in Black communities.
Yeah.
Because there's like a whole eugenics thing because Bill Gates' dad started it. And
yeah, I know. But but getting off that subject,
it's all connected. It's not a different subject. It's the same subject.
Well, it is, because this is bigger. This is a Satanism. This isn't eugenics or keeping the Black people down. This is straight up Satanism. And then Satanic Temple offers abortion ceremony for women while offering pills at the telehealth clinic. Cosmopolitan defends abortion as satanic religious ritual. So imagine if that got some kind of protection under the law. Called Satanism a non-theistic faith. So this is the article, Cosmopolitan. What's it like to have a satanic abortion? For Jessica, a 37-year-old mother of 3 who received abortion medication via Samuel Altol's mom's satanic clinic, the experience was just very supportive. While she's not a Satanist, Jessica decided to incorporate a few ceremonial elements into the solo abortion experience. Why not? She thought. The overall messaging just clicked with her. Read more about it in the link below. So that's like in your face now. You can't get around that.
Is that their way to get around and say it's their religious?
I think that might be
right
to do that. Yeah, but civil religious rights can't.
It's their right to murder someone.
I think I was a kid. It was a Jamaican in New York, and it was locally. It was a huge thing. The cops arrested him for animal abuse because he was like sacrificing chickens and stuff. And then it was a big fight. It was a religious war because the law was he was cruelty to animals, and they're like, no, the law is this. You're like, and that's where the religious freedom thing comes into play. And that was a big deal because the case was like, yes, you have complete religious freedom unless it breaks other laws. Like I can't go up and punch your kid in the face and say, "Oh, it's part of my religion." Mm-hmm. It's I'm blessing them. That's you can't do that. So that was like making a line on this. But I thought the fact that they would come out and say that, and it's Cosmo for God's sake, it's it used to be like every we had the Inquirer, Cosmo on every checkout. It was all there. I thought it was crazy that they're doing this story and calling out what it is, and then literally saying, "Hey, why don't you?" And I think the real bad thing is, like you were talking about targeting people. If you can target poor people and say, "Hey, we'll pay for it, yeah, but it's free." Mm-hmm. Just all you have to do is this little thing. If that's not the first step in accepting like revelations kind of shit,
yeah,
you know what I mean? I don't know what is. That's just like in your face. This blew my mind that it was just so blatant and out there.
Pretty sick. These people are sick.
Yeah, and it's like with Balenciaga. There's no like that should be it. Cosmo's done. Been around forever. It's done. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's just so evil.
Well, there's an old interview where Ben Carson's walking by and they ask him, what's the most satanic thing that Hillary does? And he said, or that bothers you the most? And he said, her willingness to kill innocent babies. And if you knew the real stuff he's talking about, so they're starting to put it out there more in people's faces, I think, as people are waking up, they're dripping.
Or as people are going to sleep. I think there's like this scale.
I know you talk about that normalization, how they're normal.
And people are so laissez-faire about shit that, it's like, I mean, I still always go back to Netflix and how I didn't cancel my membership. I just set it to cancel at the end of the month.
Yeah, but did you see how many people just canceled Disney?
Yeah.
When Elon tweeted that out, and people are like not shopping at Walmart now. Disney just lost some huge number of.
Walmart's tough because I mean that's like
For a lot of people, there's not another option.
that's
It's
where
like a grocery desert or food desert or whatever. Yeah,
I mean, you could say you have Amazon for some, but there's
but not milk.
and unless like small towns, that's it. There's the Walmart.
Yeah,
A lot of people have to go to the Walmart. Like
sometimes it's the Walmarts.
yeah, but there's towns that don't have anything.
Yeah,
and they have to drive like 10 miles to the next town to go to Walmart.
Yeah.
There's a lot of towns around Texas that are like that. Population 800.
Yeah.
They have nothing on a gas station or anything, but they're like 8 miles from the big city where they can go to the
or
to the
17 miles. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was terrible, and I wanted to talk about, see if you heard about it.
No.
And just how blatant it is. It's like
pretty awful.
And that's a news story, man. That's like,
in your face.
Yeah, and that also is like it's a connection to why it's so prevalent. You know what I mean? When what it really is. And I think it's gonna be one of those things that we look back and be like, what the hell? It's like, they used to just give people cocaine. Doctors did. It was in like Coca-Cola and what?
Like, remember when Biden first got in and he wanted to buy everybody crack pipes? And
oh yeah, they were buying.
Remember that?
Yeah. So, but it's insane when you look back at history. There's certain things that are like, how was this a thing? I think abortion's going to be that. It's going to be that.
I hope it is. I pray.
And I'll make this statement now because I've been wishy-washy on it, but you can't be a Christian and be supportive of abortion.
I agree.
Because
it's murder.
Because
it's murder.
Because this is what is. There's a verse in the Bible that says that God calls you or do. I need to look it up, but it's when you're in the womb. So you have a personality and a destiny. Mm-hmm. You are a person. And this isn't like interpretation or whatever. This is something that
He knits you in your mother's womb. He knits you and knows you by name.
Yes, that he knows you by name, and the plan for all that is
together. Yeah.
In the womb.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me says you're a person. Mm-hmm. You aren't.
And if you can't kill something that's not alive.
Yeah.
So for them to terminate a pregnancy, that means that was alive.
Yeah, and see, that's all like minutia. I think when you get into it, I do believe like when the heart beats, it's a person, it's alive. But I mean, what the Bible says is like at all stages, I guess after zygote, it's like you're real when it comes to the guy that created you. But yeah, I
agree. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is and then this is like, that's it. Like that has to make people on the fence. Oh, Satanism, again, I can see how this could be construed as child sacrifice. And yeah, it's there it is, man. When you look at like people that are just a little off, and then they're like, oh, I love to have blood sex magic. When I have sex, I like to cut and bleed on each other. It's just my kink. And like that's okay. No kink shaming. There needs to be shame. Period. That's like the weirdest thing when people say, well, you shouldn't kink shame someone. Like, yeah, man, you should.
You're doing deviant things. Yeah, I don't want to hear about it.
That's weird, man.
Shit away from me. Yeah.
No, man, it's just what I'm into. It's not bad. It's just what I'm into, man. Like, no, it's weird, man. You're weird. Like we can be friends and all, but you're weird, man. No, I just think that people in fur costumes are sexy. Like that's weird. I would not like to talk about that anymore with you.
So I ran across this Twitter profile where this guy goes around and like he catches they catch pedo guys, and then he gets them to publicly admit on and he's like, well, so how many pictures do you think you have on what kind of pictures do you have? Who sends these to you? How do you get them? Oh, on Telegram. Oh, this on that. Well, what are this? So what were you doing? Showing what of your body parts to little Emily and this, that, whatever. And then he'll call the police, and the guys are sitting there admitting everything
Yeah,
right in
I
front
was
of
going
the
to bring that
cop.
up to you. So there's YouTubers that have like massive channels that do that. It's like To Catch a Predator. That's NBC. So those people get in trouble. But this guy will do that. He'll do the same thing, text a person back and forth. Then they come in, and he's like, you're caught, blah blah blah. Oh, you're gonna think you thought you're gonna meet a 14-year-old. And then they're like, no, I'm not like that. I'm like, well, here's your text. You did this, and then they're like, sit down, and they're forceful, and the people sit down. They're like, no, and then they realize like, well, you guys aren't cops. They're like, no, we called the cops. They'll be here in a few minutes, and then the cops will come, and like it's the CPS thing. Like 50% of them will be like, dude, you're obviously a terrible creep. We're gonna arrest you. And they arrest him, and then they maybe get in trouble, don't get in trouble, whatever. But the person that comes, they make that call, and like half the time, they're like, "Well, he hasn't really done anything, and you guys aren't law enforcement." In fact, there's one dude who admitted to a bunch of stuff. I remember now. It was like last week I watched this.
I watched one where the guy admitted to it.
Yeah, one guy said in this state, it was like after the video, in this state, it's actually nothing. No information is relevant if you're not a licensed law enforcement officer.
Oh, I didn't hear that one.
So
the one I saw, they said, he goes, the cops show up, and he's still admitting it and whatever, and he goes, do you have a warrant? The perv says, do you have a warrant? And the cop goes, nope. He goes, I'm not going anywhere with you. And he turns around and walks in. And the guy goes, go. He's going to go erase all that off his phone right now. And he goes, dude, I can't do anything.
Mm-hmm. See, that's the thing.
So it depends who.
See, if you're a cop,
knowledge you have,
you could do something, and you might get in trouble, but probably not. I mean, you can say probable cause. You knew certain things. You heard that you have enough evidence to act. Whether you want to act or not is your choice. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was shocked to hear about that one. That you can't use any information unless you're a licensed police officer. That goes against the United States principles.
That's crazy.
Self-governance, self-police. Citizen. When I was a kid, when you learn civics, it's like you can arrest someone. You can, do you're going to be in trouble if you infringe on their rights.
Somebody was, dang it. Go look on my Telegram, on the Team Mighty Telegram. In the description of any of my videos, it's free to join. Scroll up. Somebody was doing a thing where they were like recruiting or enacting or whatever, a bunch of like citizens arrest stuff. Was it in Texas? I can't remember now. It was either in Texas or Arizona. Something about catching people coming across the border. And they were like either swearing people in or changing the law to where they could do citizens arrest kind of things. Anyway, go check it out. I forgot now. I've posted so many articles there.
You do post like insane amounts.
I know, but it's all really important stuff.
Yeah.
You need to know all of it.
If you follow Lisa on Twitter, you will be notified a lot.
Blow your head off. Yeah.
Well, it's been a crazy week, crazy show. On a positive note, how's your sales going with your store? I want to mention that.
Man, it's been really great. Thanks for mentioning it. I keep hoping to be able to do a Christmas show, but I keep being really busy. And so I set out all my Christmas stuff over here on my little table in my office, and then I put all my little Santas over here, and then my little nativity set and some other stuff on the bottom. But then I kept getting, I think, because when we planned it, with some of the stuff I picked up when I very first started picking. So I have some like Tupperware and some Avon stuff that's kind of fun, that's patriotic, and some different stuff.
Check out Lisa's store.
So thanks.
And check that out. It's they have a lot of cool stuff. Um,
And your Christmas gift will be on its way soon.
cool.
Get that wrapped.
I have to send out cards with everybody's. Chin, that's an interesting thing you said, the natural law. There's this guy I follow on YouTube. You should check him out. His name is Bjorn. Bjorn Talks. Big channel. Just this dude from like Finland or Sweden or Switzerland. But he's just always goes out like in the woods, hikes, talks to people. He's like a sage old Viking dude, and he was talking about he's been talking about everything I've been watching since like the gingivitis outbreak.
Oh,
but he said that he thinks that we're now entering a second Middle Ages or Dark Ages.
interesting.
He read like what the definition of the Dark Ages, and it was like people believing dogma and propaganda over what's fact, and it was like he said.
Oh, I don't think that at all.
He said, "This is where we're headed. This is what society is doing." I think that this is mankind's second Dark Ages that is coming.
No, he's absolutely wrong. With that said, the UK announced rolling blackouts and for people to prepare, just as Elon was tweeting for everybody to start growing your own food. Just a heads up, everyone.
Yeah, geez, I didn't want to talk about this, but you grew up in the South, so you probably don't have this memory.
Okay.
But I want to ask, and I did ask Randy, Miss Team Crypto, like years ago about this. You got an echo on your side if you're listening to the show. But when you were a kid, did you have roasted chestnuts for Christmas?
No, I've never.
Okay, they're delicious, and that was like a big thing, man. Every year, we go into the city and we get roasted chestnuts, and Randy said they still have it there in New York. But the United States, I don't know if you knew what happened. Chestnuts were huge. It was like a main food source of everyone in the U.S. Forever. It was like chestnut was the wood. The trees was called the cradle to grave wood, because your cradle was made out of chestnut, and then your casket was made out of chestnut. But there was this one dude in, I think, Florida or New York, that he imported eight Chinese chestnut trees, and they had a fungus.
Beetle. Oh, fungus. I was gonna say beetle.
Fungus, a blight, and those 8 trees killed like 27 million chestnut trees in the United States.
Wow.
Or billion. It was, and up through Canada, to where, but like you could have literally bought a 1 acre of land in the United States, and you would have had a chestnut tree or 3. And people used to use it as like a main food source. People used to use it as currency.
Wow.
Because it was. Can you imagine? Like it's a huge, like, protein. The nuts are like this big.
Oh.
They're like a plum, almost that size.
Wow.
Like,
I had no idea.
Yeah, and they're so delicious. When they're like roasted on an open fire, but they're really good. And you can still, I guess, they still sell them but they're coming back. There's like all these, movements to bring them back, and they're trying to make the trees resistant to this blight. But it's ridiculous. You can look it up. It's like either billions, or I know it's tens of millions, but it was so, like, they were everywhere. I mean, everywhere, like weeds. They're huge chestnut trees, and they were all also, like most trees can only bear fruit every other year. Every year, you had a constant harvest of chestnuts.
That's kind of cool. I didn't know all that.
Yeah, and then so that's another thing. Like the United States, there was a huge food source, right? It was a overabundance. That's what people, it's like the Garden of Eden kind of thing when people came here. It's like on public land, you could just go get chestnuts. Like there's no way you could starve. But this ridiculous food source fed all the game. So there was this massive food source for game. So there was a lot more animals back then. So like America, I think that had such a different physical landscape than we do today. Where it's like we're so dependent on supermarkets and whatnot, but it's not easy. It's not cheap to hunt. It's not. I mean, it used to be just to fish, the licensing, the government bureaucracy, and then the equipment.
Yeah.
It's not for poor people anymore. You literally used to be able to get a 22, and you could go out and hunt squirrel or coon or whatever. And now there's so many laws, there's so many restrictions, and it's all in the name of conservation, but a lot of it's ridiculous.
So they just had that big what was that? Some conservation thing, not G20. What is going on right now? There's a big the anti-oil thing happening right now, and Saudi Arabia basically told them GFY, and that there's no science backing up getting rid of fossil fuels, which we know they're not fossil fuels, but and they're not going to stop creating oil. And then there was this guy.
Well, they need the oil to power the electric plants, to power the electric stuff.
Right. And that's what he said. He goes, if they stopped pumping oil, he's like, they would destroy every tree. They'd burn every tree, and it would which would kill all the animals. And just keeping things warm, and then we'd have no food source, and then it would lead to cannibalism and the death of humanity.
Let's see if I tweeted something. Because if I
yes, Jim, COP23, thank you.
Okay, I don't think I tweeted it.
I put the videos out on the Telegram.
There's all these there's stuff online where it's like this beautiful mountain, and the whole side of the mountain is just solar panels. All the trees are cut down. It looks
what?
All the trees are cut down, and it's like the side of a mountain or a whole valley. It looks so ugly, and it's like we have to save nature by destroying nature.
Yeah,
it's not like, because we talk about solar farms, but like in the United States, it's usually on flat land. And this is like Europe, where it's very finite space. Most of Europe can fit in Texas, and this beautiful nature, and it's like so ugly. It's like a joke. It's a bad joke.
Well, there's another video of the guy talking about like how much land they would have to like destroy and scrape to be able to create the batteries to hold the solar power, and it's devastating to the land, and pulling out the minerals, and then they have to leave there's pictures of like those electric scooters in India that are just piled up and left and abandoned because they can't do anything with them. Once the batteries die, they're not good for anything. So it just creates a whole nother problem on the other side.
Yeah, I was watching there, saw something on the news where like people have had electric cars now for a decent amount of years, and so the batteries are starting to go out. But like this one guy was talking about how he took his car and it was like acting up, and they said, "Oh, you need a new battery," and it was like $40,000.
Yep.
And he's like, why would I do that? I'm just going to trash my car, buy a new car.
Because the car wasn't even worth that at that point.
Yeah.
Because it was several years old. Yeah.
Like if that was an insurance thing, you'd be, oh, it's totaled. It works. It looks perfectly fine. Everything's fine. Yeah, it's not worth it to fix. So it's totaled.
It's worth $20,000, and you need a $40,000 battery to make it work.
Yeah. That's it's still so expensive. Like they came out to, I was wanting to go solar and go off the grid because we were having like all this trouble, and it's just my street and another street. Like the whole town's fine. But then when the whole town goes out, my street has power, which is cool. But
Are you on a different company?
no, it's all the same company, but it's like a different line.
Hmm.
So anyway, they come out and they tell me, blah, 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 blah. And it's more than I owed on the house. So it was like 40 grand. And he says, yeah, but this was 60 like last year. So it goes down every year. And, then I can get you last year's batteries for like half because the technology is just going like when computers back in the 90s and 2000s, it's moving so fast. And I was like, yeah, okay, I guess I'll wait a year. But I was like, I just can't wait to, not have to worry about the electric company. He goes, oh, well, you'll still be on the grid. And I was like, what? So if there's a brownout or a blackout, I lose my power. He goes, yeah. But you don't have to pay for that. And you can actually sell the electric company. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What's the point of me trying to get off the electric company because they suck? And then I'm still stuck on it then. And my power goes out. And he goes, well, you can be completely off grid, but that'd be another 10 grand. It's just, that's ridiculous, dude. They want everyone to buy a Maserati or a Ferrari before the roads are built. That we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have so much that has to be done before everyone needs to go out and buy an electric car. Everyone needs to,
they're not the answer right now.
They were talking about, California. It's like everyone has to have an electric car, but we can't support all the electric cars we have now. Well, that doesn't matter. Stop using logic. Everyone gets an electric car.
And once again, the government is making laws about businesses they're being a middleman, and they're not letting the free market decide. The free market should decide
They haven't done that forever.
what cars to buy and how much they are and all of that.
That's both sides though. Nobody cares about, that's there is no free market anymore. That's it.
The DC blow up house, Virginia. The only update I have is, and I don't know that I believe it, but they say it's this guy, and they say he's a terrorist, and he's a beautiful home for a YouTuber terrorist. But that he had filled the house with gas, and then they were coming for him, and when the police got there, he let off a flare gun, and that's what blew up the house. So
let off a flare gun.
Who knows?
Well, we really should wrap it up, man.
Yep.
It was like hanging out with everybody. I love hanging out with you guys.
Take care.
Michigan will be 100% by 2035, they say.
No.
See, that's one. I mean, that's a way that they'll also be able to restrict. Like, if you're used to having certain things restricted with your CBDC, then they can restrict when you can drive or when you can charge. Which
it's not sustainable. It can't happen.
Yeah. Like they didn't just say no more leaded gas, no more leaded vehicles today. No, it took decades to go to only unleaded gasoline. All right. Good seeing Clint and everybody here.
Hey, Westwood.
Yeah, he's been here for the whole time. He was over on your channel too watching. Love you guys. Check out me and Lisa on World Blockchain Roundtable on Thursday. She sleeps and always forgets, but yeah. I hadn't slept.
I think I've missed one show.
Were you there this week?
I wasn't there this week.
What about last week before when I called? Oh, I was sleeping.
No, that was when we had it on the wrong day.
Yeah, it was a Tuesday.
Okay, then I've missed 2 shows in like 2 years.
Whatever. I hadn't slept for like a week. Like last week, I didn't sleep at all. And that Thursday, I fell asleep like it's 8 in the morning, and then I woke up at like 9:45 or 9:30. I was like, I'm finally sleeping. No, I just didn't show up because I hadn't slept, but. I'll be there Thursday. So Thursday, I think we stream it on do you stream it on your channel?
No, I didn't know we could do that.
Yeah, stream it on my channel.
Doing that? I thought should we be driving all the traffic to their channel?
We can, but
Or do they care? I don't know if it's good for
I
them.
think they like it to be shared and put out there.
Okay. I'll do it if it's helpful.
Most of their views aren't on YouTube. They're on like Twitter and
Oh, okay. Cool.
other platforms that they put it on.
Okay. Yeah, if they want me to, I'm happy to.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't ask. It was up on the top of the thing. It's like you can stream to your channel too. And I'm like, okay, click, and it worked. So yeah.
Okay.
All right. You guys take care. It was good hanging out with you.
Bye.
Let me get my thing. Love y'all.